Hi there and welcome back to another episode of McCall Media TV, whereby in today's episode we're going to be continuing our journey on developing our own do-it-yourself website, whereby if you've been following any of my other tutorials you'll know that I've been designing a website for my point and click puzzle adventure games, which is another arm of my business as it were, and it needs its own website. So we've been using this as a subject tool to create a whole series of YouTube videos, and in today's video we're going to be continuing that journey by basically launching the about section of our landing page. Now at the moment this is a website that is basically, we've left it as like a kind of a holding page. There's no information on there. We're going to dive in, have a look, recap where we are, and basically build technically and also think logically about the type of information we want to include on our about page. So if you haven't been here before, here's my socials on how to find more about me. Okay, so we're going to dive right over onto our left hand side screen, whereby I've already got myself logged into the back end WordPress admin area of my site. And if you just want a quick recap, so this is my point and click puzzle games website, which is literally just a hero banner at the moment. So what we're going to do is we're going to dive straight over to our dashboard and we're going to come down to appearance and ONEPRESS theme, because the first thing that I need to do, if you have been following my other tutorials, is I need to turn on the about section, because we literally turned everything off when we first started working with this theme in order to create a completely and utterly blank canvas. Now the only thing that might be slightly different between mine and yours is that I have actually now upgraded to a licensed theme, purely because of things like the branding, and as it's a real life website and it's not something that's just a demo for these tutorials, I needed to be able to customize the footer a little bit, which we've covered in other tutorials. So again, go look around on the screen, I'll put some links to those. So I've just literally turned the about section on and hit save, which will allow me now to go into the customize, the theme customizer. And if you've not been there before, you can also click on this on the left hand side. So once we've got the theme customizer up, what will happen, it's basically now populated using the default settings from our demo content that we installed back when we first loaded this theme into our WordPress website. And if you look at the moment, this is our live version at the moment. So we can see that this about section has now been created. Now this section here has two settings. Obviously we've got the settings so we can change things like the section subtitle, the about us, and then any kind of like text. But these actual content sections are powered by pages. Now if you look down here in the left hand side of the screen, it says layout settings. We can choose the columns. Now it's only got 2 populated pages at the moment, although it has got the settings to 3, so that will show you that even if you've got like 4 columns selected but you've only got 2 pages or 2 content sections populated, that will only show 2 sections at a time. So I'm just going to publish that and I'll show you what I mean. So that's just been published. Now if we go over to where it actually shows our content, you can see here, this is our history and this is our vision, and all that has basically happened at the moment is this is being powered by the content of those pages. Now if we go into our history, let me just expand that. It's saying here, select the page that basically populates this content. So we've got to go away and create the pages that basically feed these sections. And as you can see here, they've got our history, our achievements. If we was to change it, there you go, you can see it changed to our achievements. So what I'm just going to do, just purely for the sake of showing you this right now, is I'm added a 3rd section and I'm going to select our history, and now you can see how 3 sections are presented on the screen. Now as it happens, I actually want 4 sections, so I'm adding a 4th one, and I don't think there's any content existing just yet, so I'm actually going to add our history twice so that you can see how that looks. Now we're going to come back and change this in a little bit, but essentially we can hide the item titles, so we can just have the content itself if we wanted to, but I quite like the title, so I'm going to leave them visible. And then what we can also do is we can link to the actual page itself. So let me just, on this very last end, our history, if I click on link to single page and then publish, when we come over to our website, bearing in mind that this is all demo content at the moment, and then I refresh, which is the F5 key on your keyboard, you can see now that the About section has been populated. And as we move over them, you can see that this one on the fourth one on the right hand side has now turned into a pointer hand. Okay, so let me show you that again. So it's an arrow, 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 because none of these have any links, but this one here now, the title has become a clickable area and the image. So if I was to click on that, it will now navigate to the Our History page of my website, which can be a really powerful and useful tool to do. So I'm just going to go back one. Okay, so now we've got our section populated, as it were. Now we need to think about the actual content. So let's come back to our website, and I'm going to change these now because I don't actually want these titles. I'm going to come out of here and I'm going to actually go to the pages. So these are actually pages and not posts. Remember, when you're dealing with WordPress, pages are like the brochure that explains your company, but your posts are like your company magazine, which comes out on a monthly basis with new and updated articles. So pages generally are a lot more permanent based than the posts, which are more like blog and diary excerpts and news updates. Now you can see these are the 3 pages here. So instead of just deleting and basically starting fresh, I'm going to edit these. So I'm just going to call these for the moment. This one's going to be about McCall Media Limited, which is essentially the parent company info for this website. Okay, so I just want to do this so that you guys can see how it affects the page in a minute. Now I'm just going to go over to document, and if you look at the permalink, it still says our achievements. So I'm just going to call this about McCall, let me take the McCall Media Limited. Now the reason I'm doing this as well is because we obviously want this to show the slug up in the actual URL of the page. So when you come back over to our website and we was to click on Our History, if you look here now, that is how the slug populates the URL at the top of your page. So that's if people was to link to your page or wanted to use it in any way, this is what they are physically going to see, is that slug. So let me just go back. So I wanted them to actually see it as McCall Media, about McCall Media Limited. So I'm just going to update that. Now we can overwrite things by clicking on the featured image, which is what's come with the downloadable content. Now I actually don't want to use this image, so I'm going to delete it because we're never going to have need for it. And instead I'm going to upload for the moment, just so that I can show you what we're working with, like placeholder image. Okay, it's not going to do anything. I'm not even going to bother putting the SEO or the meta details in for the moment. I'm just going to use that as a sort of a standard image, just to sort of remind myself visually of what's going on. Now the excerpt, that's the bit that will be seen when the page, basically if we didn't want to show the full details and we only wanted to show the excerpt, I'm going to show you that in a minute. So let's look up here. We've got the actual page content itself, but the excerpt, I can never say it, is essentially still Latin text. Discussion, we don't want comments to show on blog pages because they're the pages about my site, so I'm not really interested in people's opinions because this is me promoting that element of my business, as it were. Page attributes. Now this is something that's quite handy. If you look over here again, let's go to Our History, because this is the default settings. It's presenting the page quite like a blog post at the moment, which I don't particularly want. So I don't want all of this meta detail. So I can control that by actually selecting the style of template. Now I always particularly like to work with the full width contained, which basically means that the website page, the website page will go the full width of the monitor, but as you can see there's a gap on the left and a gap on the right, so it's at a rough guess here, I'd say this is about 1,000 pixels wide, which means no matter how big or wide the monitor is, there's always going to be, the content is always going to be centered in the main body area of the screen. Whereby if I was to select this where it says stretched content, the content here would literally go right up to the edge of the monitor, and that's fine. That might be a style that you particularly like, but I don't, so I'm going to leave that as it is at the moment. So I'm going to work with the contained content, and at the moment there is no parent page for this, so I'm just going to leave it as it is, which means when we come back into the page, a list of different pages on my website. I'll show you what that means in a minute. Now, I don't want to hide the header. I don't want to hide any of the details at all. If I was to show you quickly what that means, if I go to my McCall Media website, we can change, instead of just having this bar with the word, like obviously that's the title of the page. As you can see here on, let me just pick one of my particular pages. You can actually style the header to have an image in the background using this particular theme, which is the choice I've done for my McCall Media, like the parent company website, which this YouTube channel supports. But on this particular website at the moment, the setting is off, and I'm going to leave that as it is on this particular site for now. So we're so where it says display featured image as a header cover, I'm going to leave that unticked. Display the page excerpt as a header cover description. And again, if you come over here, this little bit of text here, that's powered by that excerpt. Now, I know obviously I'm on a different website, but this website, my parent website, uses the same theme, and that's so that I can get a branding feel of how I set up my site across all of my websites. So again, we can display the excerpt as a header description. We're not going to hide breadcrumbs. Breadcrumbs are good for users to find their way around the site, and I'm not going to hide the footer. So I'm just going to update that for the moment. Now, that was, if we come back to our customizer, just real quick and just turn that on. So let me go to our About Page section and go to Content. As you can see now, because we've changed the title of the website page, it's now populated the content section here. And if we expand that, and it says here, we've obviously got the page still selected, but if we was to link to that page now, and I publish and then refresh the website, so let's go back and refresh. There we go. So now you can see that this entire section is being powered by my website page. Okay, so we've got the placeholder image for the featured image for the page itself. We've got the title of the page, which is great, and then there's the actual content. Now, if we come back to, sorry, here we go. What we've got here, down here, sorry, it says full page content or page excerpt, and I did say to you I was going to show you what that means. So let me just publish and save and then refresh, and as you can see here now it shows the Latin text. And if we go back to our actual website page, do you remember when I said the expert was on the right hand side full of Latin text down here? Okay, that is now powering this section of our site, which is quite a nice way of putting a little synopsis. So as you can see, the cursor itself has also updated, which means when I click on it, I can now go to the About page and learn more about McCall Media directly, which is really nice. And what I'm actually going to do in the next tutorial is just show you how to do a page redirect, because what I actually want people to do, instead of actually coming to this website page, as soon as this page loads in the browser, I want the website to pick up the fact that actually it's got a redirect, just like you do a redirect on your postal service if you was moving house, and actually send people to my parent website. And I can't do that on the down here, because all I can do is sorry, not in this section. Where are we? There we go, into the customizer. Because this customizer is powering this front page here, and although we can turn it into a link, the only thing that it allows us to do is to actually link to the page that's populating this section. So if I want to be able to pass my visitors to my parent website, this McCall Media homepage as it were, I actually have to do a redirect on that page instead of actually allowing them to view this website, because there's no point me actually writing about my website when my website currently exists. So in this particular scenario, I need to do a redirect, and I'm going to show you that in the next video. But just quickly going back to our website here now, you can see now that these three still need to be populated. So I'm just going to really quickly jump out of here and populate and rename these pages. You can see that I've now updated these 4 content. So I've got these 4 pages. Let me just come out of here and I will show you. So basically, I've got a little bit of a CSS tweak to do here, which I'm just going to dive in and show you guys. As you can see, I've also just taken out the word about because I just thought it looked a bit busy for me personally. So I've just changed my mind completely, but that's the beauty of doing website design because nothing is locked in concrete. And as you can see, we've got no menus going on, so we've got quite a few bits still to do. So what I like to do is when I am designing my website page, I kind of work on one section at a time. So technically, this section is almost where I want it to be, and then the content itself is powered by the pages, which is fine. So technically all I've got to do now is fix this bit that I've just highlighted and this small CSS tweak here. And if you haven't done this kind of thing before, there's a really nice way of doing it. Things like this are very, very simple to do once you've got your head around CSS and what that basically is. So remember, CSS is your cascading style sheets, and it's a bit like the instruction manual or the makeup bag for your website. It tells your website how to visually look and display. Now I'm in Firefox as a browser, so I'm going to hit the F12 key on my keyboard at the moment to bring up what essentially down here is my Firebug, and this is a great little way to sort of investigate different elements and inspect them on the screen. So if you look very carefully over on the left hand corner here, there's kind of like this little blue square box with an arrow, and when I click on that and as I move my cursor around the page, it's kind of trying to guess and highlight different sections that I want to inspect. So I'm going to come down to the actual title here, which is wrapped onto 2 lines, and what's happened down the bottom here is it's now highlighted that element of HTML code. Now obviously this is a hyperlink because it's going to the page itself, so what I actually want to look at is the tag above it, which is the H3, which is your heading, third heading style. Now all I want to do is tweak it slightly. So what I've done is I've clicked on the H3, and over on the right hand side now, all of the elements, the Persuado code as it were, that control what a H3 style is kind of showing here, and there it will look confusing because it's kind of nested in different places. H3 will be used in the theme, it will be used in ONEPRESS, things will be in WordPress as well, things will be overriding things in the hierarchy. So don't worry about it too much, but what I am going to do, what you can do is you can basically play and tweak to see if it looks the way you want it to, and then you can copy the code and put it permanently into the theme design. So if you look here, this H3 section here has got a tick next to it to saying it's enabled, and the font size is 1.25 rem at the moment. Okay, now if I untick that, depending on how the theme hierarchy shows, it's not showing that much at the moment. What if you look carefully, the one above it is showing. This is where it can feel really confusing if you don't understand the CSS. So basically when the WordPress website loads, WordPress itself has a style sheet, and then I've installed the theme, and the theme has a style sheet. So now there's 2 kind of style sheets sort of competing for one another. So there's kind of like a hierarchy as to what command should be the one that's being used. Now ironically in this case 20 pixels and 1.25 rem is very similar sizing, so it doesn't visually look like anything is changing. But as we know that was the one that was enabled, what I can do, say for example on here now, is I could play, and as you can see I can just tweak. Now this isn't a permanent setting, this is just me purely playing at the moment so that I can see if I can get everything to fit. Now 1.0 is too small, it's like the text itself, so I could go 1.1, I could go 1.1 5. Now I'm just trying to get it so that I can get that text as large as I can get it to do before that point and click puzzle games basically wraps onto the next line. So I'm going to go to 1.2, there we can go, 1.21, let's go 1.25, no, see it's wrapping, so 1.24, there you go, 1.24. So we now know what size text that we want. I'm just going to hit return. So what I can do now is I can come in here and I can copy this rule, because I now know it's visually sort of working the way I want it to, or displaying the way I want it to. So I've kind of tweaked the code on the fly, but it's not permanently saved, because if I refresh the page right now, you can see that it's gone back to the original settings. Okay, so this is just a way of tweaking the code on the fly until you get the settings you want without having to go into the back end, save and refresh, go tweak, save, refresh. It's a bit of a pain in the arse working that way. So by sort of tweaking on the fly, as it were, it allows you to get the settings that you want. I just copied it, so I'm just going to come back over here now, and in this time I'm going into the theme, into the customizer, I should say. I'm going to come out of this section. Oh, there we go, it's loaded. We're at the main hierarchy, sorry, my bad. We're in the main hierarchy, and down here it's got additional CSS. Okay, and as you can see, it's completely empty. I've not done anything at all in this website, so I'm going to click on the close because I don't need to read that. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to paste that line that we've just created. So where I've just copied that code, I literally right clicked on here and copied rule. I've now just put the whole thing on here. Now we're not changing anything there, so we don't need to rewrite that. Okay, and that particular font was, if you look here, it was commented out, it wasn't ticked. So that's how in sort of basically the / with the star, and then the trailing one at the end is a way of writing CSS comments, but we don't need that. What's going to happen now is all text that I create is going to be 1.24 for the H3. Sorry, all H3 text is now going to be styled this way, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to force it, so it doesn't matter which version of the hierarchy the website is pulling up the style sheet from. I am literally going to force it now that this word important with the exclamation at the front is basically my way of forcing the entire browser, regardless of which style sheet it's referring to always use this as the most important H3 style in place. And I'm just going to publish. Now when we come back to my website, let's hit the F12 to get rid of that down the bottom there, and I refresh. So I'm just going to hit the F3. As we now see, now we have restyled. So we've kept all the characteristics of the H3. All I've done is I've tweaked that code and that font size, literally through trial and error, to make it so I can keep it as large as I possibly could, but keeping the aesthetics pleasing to the eye by having all the text feature on just that single line without wrapping down to a second line. So this now technically is doing its job. All I have to do as a website owner is basically customize this section of the page now, and then it's kind of job done. What I might do later on is I might change the background color, but I won't do that until I've added other sections to the site, and then I can see everything as a large picture as opposed to one item on its own. So at the moment I'm going to leave it white. If you did want to change your color background, let me just come out and show you where to do that. When you're in the customizer, there we go, we've got a section here. So although this is the about, which is controlling the content, this section here is order and styling. The only section we've got turned on at the moment is the about section, which is why it's showing. Okay, and then in here you can basically change this white background. So I can do an inverted style, which is like a negative version, and then I could change the colors. I could choose an image or a video to play in the background, which is one of the perks of upgrading to the paid license, because if it was just the free license, then it would only be the color that we could tweak. We could make this this entire section here full width, which we do. Oh, sorry, I've just turned it off. I didn't mean to. Okay, so we could make it full width. See if it, there you go, and now it squeezes the whole way across the page. So that means we've got two ways of displaying this page sections. That's nice. And we can add in padding if we want. So this white bit above this section title up to this line here, and then underneath it we could basically remove the padding. So I'm just going to leave that as it is because I don't want that to happen. Leave empty for the default, which is fine. I don't want to add any more sections in yet, so I'm going to publish, and it's job done on this about section. So in the next tutorial, as I said, I'm now going to show you how to do a page redirect so I can get this entire area working correctly, and then in the tutorial that follows that, we're going to talk about styling the actual content on these two pages. So That's kind of, there was quite a lot to cover in this one today. Do watch the next two tutorials, she says, because when it comes to actually putting content into an about section, remember that the about page of your website is pretty much the second most visited page on your website. So it needs to be quite powerful, because that's kind of selling the concept of what your entire website and business is about. And for me, I'm splitting that section into two parts, which is the point and click puzzle games as the business, and then why I'm also teaching kids to code. So this will cover more about the apps that I am actually publishing, or in the process currently of publishing. And then this is why I've created my YouTube channel. So lots and lots of interesting stuff going on here. And I hope to see you on another episode real soon. Yeah, that's it pretty much from me today.